and I'm recording. All right, welcome to week 3 of the 5-week transformational webinar series, December 4th. We have 2 more weeks to go. Next week, we have a really cool conversation with Malachi Brown. And then we ended up with Frankie Picasso, who's another amazing guest. All our guests are great. This week, we've got Rachael Thompson, otherwise known as Reiki Rachael. You should check out her YouTube channel and her website as well. Do you want to just do, a shameless self-promotion now, Rachael?
Why not? So you can find me on YouTube, just Reiki Rachael, and my website is Reiki with Rachael. And the only other place I'm on social media-wise right now is Instagram, and that's also Reiki with Rachael.
And on your YouTube channel, the one thing I just love about you is your generous spirit, because there's so much content, and you just float it out there, and it's great content. You just did a series on manifesting and our abundance. In the fall, you did a 21-day series. Then you've got a download, a half-hour download of Reiki that you can listen to. And I'm telling you, I downloaded that back in September, and I listen to it every night because I go for these treatments every day. And 10 minutes in, I'm out like a light. So I don't know.
I've heard that from a lot of people that they'll listen to the download to go to sleep, and it just puts them right to sleep.
Yeah, totally. And then sometimes I hear like, oh, now you're at the end, you should have a drink of water. And I'm going,
Not happening.
No. Anyway, that's free, guys. If you want to go to Rachel's website, you can download that. And if you need to relax, even during the day, just to meditate to it, it's really beautiful. And then, Rachael, you float Reiki energy out to those, who are listening.
I do. Yeah.
So that's a little bit about Rachael. I'm going to just share her bio. Rachael is an energy healer and a spiritual teacher. She's always been drawn to healing, initially taking the more conventional route as a therapist, and recently transitioning into energy healing as a Reiki master. She's the owner of Reiki with Rachael and the host of the Mindful Mondays podcast. Her own healing journey began when she started her business 4 years ago and struggled with overwhelming anxiety. With a background in mental health and energy healing, she is a huge proponent of a holistic approach to healing and everyday life stressors. So, Rachael, we talked before, so for those on the call tonight, there's research and work that goes into the prep of these things. So when we talked last week, I want to start with something that you mentioned in your bio, and it's something that a number of us are experiencing in these changing times, and that's anxiety. And it could be caused by a number of things. It could be caused by changes that are happening in our life or our work or our business or our family circumstances, or maybe we've had a loss. I just spoke to 2 friends who have lost parents in the past, 4 months. Change that we're dealing with. Social stressors, economic stressors. Here in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, and in the States too, GM, which is located east of the city, is closing down the plant next year. So, people are in a little bit of a stress about that. And of course, the holidays can also add to our anxiety levels, especially if we have one of those relatives that we all have, right? So here you are, Rachael, you're a younger woman, you're coming head on with your own anxiety. What feelings and emotions and sensations came up for you then, Rachael?
As far as like surrounding my anxiety, what was that like?
Yeah. And why did starting a business prompt it when that should be a really exciting time?
Yeah, so anxiety has been something I've struggled with since I was in graduate school for mental health counseling. I have generalized anxiety, so it's just kind of like a free-floating anxiety level that's always there. And so for me, when there is a trigger, it is just magnified. And whenever I started my own business, it really brought up a lot of my insecurities, and it triggered my anxiety. It brought up a lot of insecurities that I had about my self-worth. I felt like I was putting myself out on the line, and if people didn't buy from me, then it was something wrong with me. And, you know, it's very anxious kind of thoughts. A lot of my ingrained subconscious feelings surrounding money, and just, you know, the thoughts that I had growing up about never feeling like I deserved to earn a lot of money. I mean, those all got triggered. So I feel like starting my own business took me very far out of my comfort zone. I was no longer getting a salary. I was no longer getting vacation days. I didn't have a 9-to-5 schedule. And those with anxiety know that having a schedule and having that security really helps. It helps you feel safe. So in all levels, I was not feeling safe. And I recognized that I needed to do a lot of self-work before I would be able to make a business successful, because I was the one who was in my own way.
How did you get out of your way? How did you heal yourself through this? Especially the self-worth part, because a lot of us struggle with that, you know, like our own worthiness. And especially like Michael and Asha are both in their own business. And I got the pleasure of teaching them and coaching them in a training program I was involved with. And we all struggle with that, you know, like what's our value? What's our worth? And how did you, first of all, get over that one? And then how did you heal yourself through the anxiety?
Yeah, the self-worth is a huge one. And those who are familiar with Louise Hay, her teachings really helped me with that. First off, her teachings made me aware of that was a huge underlying issue for me. And I began to recognize that so many of my more surface level problems all stemmed from that one place. So I had to make a very conscious effort and change the way that I talk to myself. I did tons of affirmations. You know, it's not just something that you can snap your fingers and be like, oh, I know I have a self-worth problem. Now that I know it, I can fix it, because you have years and years and years of reinforcing that lack of self-worth. So just doing things like, you know, saying the affirmations daily, doing the meditations daily, that kind of stuff. But whenever I was in a situation that triggered my lack of self-worth, often that would send me into kind of a tailspin of negative thinking. And I would have to be very deliberate and very conscious and just continue to reaffirm that I am worthy. And I would do that. I would reaffirm that I was worthy until I felt that shift in my emotions, and then I would act. So this could be something as silly as sending an email. So for my old business, sending an email, I hated looking at the stats of like who wasn't opening my emails and things like that. And it made me not even want to send them out. And especially ones where I was trying to sell a product or service.
And then you hate your friends because you don't even bother.
Right.
What the hell's wrong with you? You're my friend.
I know. Like, I know half the people on my email list. Yeah. So, and it can really trigger that stuff. So before going into writing the email and sending the email, I would have to be very deliberate in reaffirming that I am worthy, and, you know, I'm opening myself up to receive this back, like to receive the good back, because initially I would be anxious, and then everything would be like, it would tailspin from there. You know, nobody's going to open it. And it just made me feel terrible, and just a very deliberate in every single action that I took. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it's way better than the thinking patterns that I used to have.
Right. For Michael and Asha and anybody tuning in after tonight's live call, Louise Hay work is all about positive affirmations, and that it's our birthright to be abundant and healthy and well, and to call that in. And, you know, you have to overcome your negative voice, and we all have that negative voice inside us. I'm in my 50s. I still have it running, the asylum sometimes, and it's tough. And it, where did your negative voice come from? Because I know mine comes from when I was a kid, and whatever. It had negative programming from parents or teachers or whatever. And you have to let that go and forgive them and say, okay, that's where it came from. Somebody said I was this at one point, but we're not. We're way bigger than that. But where did your little negative sort of voice stem from? And have you realized now you're how great you are?
I'm getting there.
It's a life work.
Yeah, it is. It's a journey. Like most people, mine came from childhood. And, coming from, and I can look at my parents as an adult and I can understand why they developed certain mindsets. And I can even look back on my grandparents and understand why they developed certain mindsets. And, it gets passed down. But just from my childhood, my parents were divorced. They had a very bitter divorce. My mom never financially felt secure, even though she had made a decent living. And so I never felt financially secure. And then on my dad's side, after they got divorced, he wasn't financially secure, but he showed his love through buying gifts and got himself in a lot of debt. So like I had both ends of the spectrum to form how I subconsciously viewed money. And, I remember being a child and looking at other people who had these happy families and just being like, that's not me. Why can't that be me? And so that got ingrained in my subconscious. And as an adult, I kept looking at other people's lives, people who made a lot of money, people who had successful careers, or, just these things that I wanted. And I would look at them with that same mindset. They can have that, but that's not meant for me. I can't. And so, and I would be lying to say that those thoughts still aren't there. I can recognize them. And I can stop them from affecting my actions, but they're still there to some extent. It really is a lifelong journey. And I think a lot of people who are embarking on any sort of healing journey or spiritual journey, that's very important to understand, because if we don't, then it can feel defeated. Like whenever we listen to certain talks or read books that say like, all you need to do is this for 21 days and boom, you can manifest all this money, or you can, completely change the way you think. And there may have been some people out there who've been able to do it, but my journey and all the people that I work with, it's just constant growth.
Yeah. You just got to kind of keep at it day by day and moment by moment, I've been doing, a certain treatment where I'm in an oxygen chamber, getting oxygen to this toe, and it's working. So I watch Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. I might as well do something good, right? And I meditate and I do my affirmations, but I watch The Secret too. And I like The Secret, but I think this idea of manifesting so easily is not so easy for us, I want to, I think it does take work, and yeah, visualize it and put it up on the wall and just keep working at it. But I think the key really is just to be sort of happy in the moment, today is going to be a good day, and just create that day and be intentional about it. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, so much of the law of attraction, it definitely has become very sensationalized because people are like, all I had to do is think a certain way and I can drive a Lamborghini or whatever. And
then we'd all be doing that, right?
Right. Exactly. It's not that easy. We all have so many, subconscious blocks and energy blocks that I guess that's what turns it more into that journey that I was talking about before. And so much of the law of attraction is like your vibration. Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks always talks about raising your vibration. So if you just set like a daily intention to try and keep your energy high, to try and keep your vibration high, and we do that through high vibrational thinking, like the positive thinking. We do that through meditation. we do that through just positive actions, giving to others, allowing others to give to us, being grateful, and that raises your vibration. And so when you think of the law of attraction, that the keeping your vibration high is more important than having your vision board of the cars you want on your fridge.
Right.
That's a very important component of it.
Yeah. Truth be known, you might not really want that. It might not really matter to you. Maybe it's helping, people in a far off country or something with economic development or healing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's more your speed. Car, like, who cares?
Absolutely. And what I encourage people to do who are getting into the law of attraction is if you're really serious about it, you have to listen to what your soul wants, not what your socialization or society wants.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have been socialized to think you had to live in a certain house or drive a certain car, but your soul, who you truly are, might want a very different lifestyle. So I know when I started and I first found out about the law of attraction, I did all the things and I thought that I wanted something and I did not get what I was trying to manifest. But it was for the best because it led me on a journey that led me here, which I know where I'm at now is my life purpose. But if I would have just been able to instantly manifest what I wanted 3 years ago, I would never have this opportunity to be so fulfilled and happy in what I'm doing.
Oh, that's beautiful. I want to get back to the anxiety and the healing, your self-healing. And we're all, I think for Michael and Asha too, I'm going to speak on your behalf, you two. But I think, they're entrepreneurs and it is scary not having that regular paycheck and everything. So we do, if I can encourage you to, do a practice of meditation and affirmations and gratitude every day, I think you'll find you'll become a lot more successful and to watch that negative little voice. But, Rachael, we're a bit of a fast food society. And by that, I mean, I don't mean that we all eat fast food. It's just when challenges arise, be it health or mental health, we seemingly want a quick fix. And I mean, Dr. Oz said, if I did this, I'd be cured, right? But how long did the overwhelming anxiety last for you? How long did it last for you?
I still have anxiety. I mean, it's not gone. And so it's been over a decade that I have an underlying anxiety. There is a book, and I can't remember the author, but it's called, I can't even really remember the name, but it's something along the lines of Finding Beauty in the Beast. And what she talks about in the book is how she has anxiety, but that anxiety has driven her on this whole healing journey and spiritual journey that has completely transformed her life. But if she never had it, or if she was able to, find that perfect fix that got rid of it, she would have stopped that journey. So I feel very much like my anxiety is something that, yes, it's more controlled, much more controlled than it used to be, but it's still there and it's still driving me to transcend it. And that could take a lifetime. And I'm not trying to say that to sound discouraging, but so often what we are trying to heal or what we're trying to overcome, even though it's so hard, is actually pushing us to beautiful things. We just don't recognize it when we're going through the process.
Yeah. And, you're younger than I am, but, that little inner voice that causes my own anxiety or doubts or fears has been with me since I was 10. It's like, it's probably my longest relationship,
right?
Other than my parents. So it's crazy, and it's got a strong voice sometimes, and it really tries to trip you up. In religious context, they say it's the devil or your demons or whatever, and it is, and that little voice, we all have it, and it's like, dude, I call mine Krusty the Clown, by the way.
Oh, I like it. It is fun if you name it. That can help dissociate you from it a little bit.
Right, and I kind of like Krusty the Clown, Come on, kids. Now,
do you give him that voice? Do you give him the Krusty voice?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. He sits on the couch. He's in his undershirt drinking beer, and why bother? Like, it's not going to work.
I love it.
Right? Well, thanks, Krusty. You just sit there. So as as you move through it, were there signs that you were healing, and when did you realize like maybe the worst of it was over, the anxiety? Like you seem pretty good now. So
Yeah, there was a couple big life events that I was really able to see how much I grew.
mm,
And it's like you do this work every day, but then when you're faced with the challenge, and mine was with another person, then I realized that all the work that I've been doing for the past 3 years, when I was able to approach the situation from unconditional love rather than from anger, fear, anxiety, like I would have 3 or 4 years ago, then I recognized how much I have changed. And it's really like, it's like every day, not every day, but multiple times a week, I can notice it. And it's just like little things. Like if I would think back to how I would react to something, years ago, and now those kind of situations that used to be a trigger aren't a trigger for me at all. I mean, those are the little victories that we need to celebrate. I used to get in very negative tailspins of thought.
here too.
And yeah, and now now I don't nearly as often, but whenever I feel it coming on, I am very, very aware of it. And that allows me to take action, and that gives me my power back. Like I felt like for many years, that negative tailspin, that anxious thinking pattern had the power over me. But now when something triggers me and I notice that I'm going into that spiral, I then can take my power back and I can stop it. So I guess there's not like, it's not like I just like saw the light one day, but just through multiple circumstances, it proves to me how all of this work is so worth it.
Yeah. If you study healers like Louise Hay, we've talked about, and you talked about Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, the teachers from The Secret like Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, they all suggest that our thoughts become things. And we think over 60,000 thoughts each day, Rachael, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
How can we begin to shift the thoughts, especially the darker thoughts or the lack of hope we may be feeling at times? What did you do to shift your thinking? Was it affirmations, journaling, expressing gratitude, prayer, or was it a combination of everything? Like what spoke to you and how did it impact?
Yeah, it was everything. And it's so interesting because I feel like certain teachers and certain healers came into my life at a period where I needed them, and I would just immerse myself in their teachings. Louise Hay was one of them, the Heal Your Life. Like I would listen to that every single day for a couple months, and that helped me. And then, I would get into Dr. Wayne Dyer, Esther Hicks, and it just was kind of like, it wasn't even a conscious decision. It just is the way that I've always progressed along my personal journey. So I rely very heavily on the teachings of others. And it's not, at this point, I've studied so much. Cognitively, I understand and I know a lot of what they're going to say, but it's that constant reinforcement of my conscious mind, of my subconscious mind, that allows me to stay in this like more uplifted, positive vibration. And just listening to these things, like whether they're teachings, whether it's meditations or affirmations, listening to them on a daily basis. I mean, it's very, very much a big part of my lifestyle because I personally need it. And I know that if I don't continue to listen to these teachings, then I could slip backwards. So it's a very deliberate action on my part to continue to learn, and I'm always listening to books on tape, YouTube videos, just constantly. I'll have affirmations playing in the background. Sometimes I get really into like different mantras, and that helps. So it wasn't one thing. It was like what I was guided and what felt right during a period of my life, and I'd immerse myself in it until I just naturally transitioned onto something else.
Yeah. Some people make it a daily habit. to start your day with it. I start my day with meditation, journaling, gratitude journal, and my affirmations. And then I was exercising now because I do this treatment at 7:30 in the morning. I don't have time. So I do it at night. So, but I do this daily ritual, which I've been doing for 5 years. And I read a book called The Morning Miracle by Hal Elrod. And he's a young guy who was involved in a car crash and told he'd never walk again. And he discovered in his journey to healing, he discovered this morning ritual idea. And people like, Tony Robbins does it, Brian Tracy does it. A lot of the sort of really highly successful people do it. Like, so they're up early, like get up at 5, and they do it before work. And it's reading. Maybe you read biblical text if that's your thing. You journal, you meditate, you exercise, and you do that in an hour. And boy, the rest of the day is quite different. And it's different if you don't do it. So how much time do you spend, on your own path of meditating, affirmations, reading, listening to things?
I spend a lot of my day at least having it playing in the background, even if I am like doing dishes or working or cleaning or walking the dogs. Like I'm always the only time I listen to music is like popular music, not like mantras, is when I work out. But all the other time it's just, some good positive stuff. And as far as the morning routine, absolutely. Like I have to have a morning routine, and if I get out of it for a day, it's fine. If I get out of it for 2 days, okay. But like if I get on to day 3 without like my meditation, my morning routine, I can feel it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It does set the tone. We're going to, Michael and Asha, if you want to unmute yourself, do you have questions that you want to ask? You're all on mute, you two. Oh, okay. Unmute. Michael,
So,
do you have any questions?
I'm really glad. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm really glad to be part of this because I had different kinds of growing up. In the past, meditating a lot without knowing the reason why I was meditating. And as a child, I used to be really upset. Why am I being forced to meditate? So when I immigrated here to Canada, I learned more about the reason why I am meditating and a lot more about healing practices. And I was also introduced to one of my friends, to Louise Kay, around 2008-9. And that has changed my life a lot. So I'm also one of the person who has experienced myself this transformation. But I have been blessed with one step further than where I was before, even last year, one step further than where I was last year in terms of self-love and consciousness. I am taking this course called Meditation for Health. David is aware of my recent near-death experience, and this has been quite a journey for me in terms of being present, not forcing my brain of thinking for what's next for me. I should be more beautiful. I should be more accomplished, more successful. And I realized that I've been living that for almost all my life. That's what I want to be. I want to be successful. I want to be healthier. I want to be something else. So I'm really happy to be part of this. Rachel, thank you so much. And you are shining, and you are so vibrant, and you yourself are a leader for people like us to be, learn from. So um, any tips that you can give us to live, happier and self-love, that would definitely be very helpful. You've already given us some of them, and I
Wait,
definitely
we're not finished. We're not finished, Tasha. So you'll get more.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the rest of the.
Aw, thank you. Thanks. Rachel Asher is an amazing young woman. Unbelievable what she's gone through and come through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true leader.
Absolutely. I could feel that. And thank you for sharing and for your kind words. And how you said just being present and not feeling like you should be any other way than you are right now is such an important piece. We beat ourselves up because we're not where we want to be, but we have to accept who we are now with that negative voice in our head that's still there, with some of these bad habits that we just can't seem to kick. Like, we have to learn to love all of that and accept all of that, but also learn to love and accept that part of us who wants to push through and wants to grow. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Michael, comment?
Okay. Well, I guess it,
because you're going through some major change too, pal.
Well, yeah. I mean, once I was rich and then I was not, and now I'm going back up the hill again. It takes a lot. Actually, what I've been reading a lot right now is Jen Serrano and Badass.
Oh, Sincero, yeah.
Yeah, she actually really speaks to me. It's something I probably listen to maybe even once a day. It's something that is great for the bus. It's great when you're going into a meeting. It makes you think of what you're happy for. It makes you really focus in on, where you want to go. And I guess that's the main thing for me right now is getting to that point that the business is actually starting to pay off. The actual numbers are actually starting to work on the podcast. So now it's just a matter of getting to a point that we're putting out enough content that it actually starts making money.
That's good. And I'll speak to that, and Rachel chime in too. I think, we look at the numbers when we're starting something like a business, like in your case, Rachel, too, that, I don't have a lot of people yet, or I don't have enough. And you know what? Even one is enough. If you can change one person's life, that's enough. I remember too, Michael, when I did my radio show, started it in 2002. I had like maybe 10 and a half listeners. I didn't know who I had, but if we could affect one person, that then you're doing your job, Michael. Like, and just keep being in your, vibing high and being in love and enjoy of it, and just let it take shape.
Well, it's been interesting because I started a new podcast 30 days ago, which was a year to save my life, which is about being on the diet, right? And going after the diet. And it's amazing the response I've gotten out of that. A lot of it being support. Because, I want to lose 100+ pounds. That's a big goal. So far in 30 days, we've gone down 19 pounds, which isn't bad.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we've got to keep going because the knees are just hurting really bad. I used to play football, and so my knees are like killing me at this point. But so there's motivation on two sides. I'm getting a lot off Facebook. I'm getting a lot off Twitter. And people commenting on the various platforms. And then the other side, of course, is, you wake up on Monday. I do my weigh-ins on Sundays. And by the time I wake up on Monday morning, this week 100 people had already listened to it. So that was for 4 weeks of being in production, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is. And I feel like it's, just speaking from my experience, the more I shared about what I was going through, the more people just naturally gravitated towards me. If people really respond well to you, to others opening themselves up and being vulnerable. Like, we just don't want to hear from people who, as far as like diets or exercise, like we're kind of sick of hearing from people with a six pack. Like, we want to hear from people going through it, or with like the healing or manifesting. Like, we don't really want to talk to, somebody who's been successful for the past 30 years. We want to hear from somebody who's like gone through it in the past several years, and they can say, this is what I've done and this is how I've gotten here. So I definitely feel like your audience can really relate to just your authenticity.
Yeah, I'm finding that the audience is sort of growing. I didn't even realize I had to pick up my hashtag game until about 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's good. You grew without hashtags.
Yeah, and so that was a big part of it, and and now dealing with other people, other, I guess, sort of media types who are sort of, I'm getting other people to mention me, or mention, hey, if you want to hear something interesting, go here. You'll hear the struggle that others are going through, sort of thing. And so that's been pretty cool. I actually got a message off another podcaster the other week where he was going, hey, loved your stuff, and that, boosts like that are great. It's not just the money, but it's, it'd be nice to have some money.
That's understandable.
Yep. It'll come.
It will. Mm-hmm.
It will.
All right. I want to get back to, are you complete, Michael?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. And we'll have time at the end too. If you have any questions, Asha and Michael. And, Rachel, we were talking just before we went to our people on the call tonight. We were talking about how you got through your anxiety, and with journaling, affirmations, prayer, gratitude, all kinds of things. And you still to this day do it. I make it to a daily practice. But one additional way, of course, is through the healing power of practicing or receiving Reiki energy, which is in your name. By definition, Reiki is a healing technique based on the principle that the therapist can channel energy into the patient by means of touch to activate the natural healing processes of the patient's body and restore physical and emotional well-being. That's a bit of a textbook sort of description of it. Or why did Reiki make sense to you as a way to help heal you, but then to shift your business and to become a Reiki practitioner?
So it was not planned at all. And when we talked before, I think I told you how I found out about Reiki in a bar. And I was several craft beers in at the time. This was years ago. And this random girl came up to me and she started talking about Reiki and like moving her hands in front of me. And there was part of me where I was like, this girl's crazy, but there's other part of me that remembered Reiki and was intrigued. Now, that kind of put the seed in my head, but I didn't try it for a couple years later when I moved to a new city, a new state, and tried to start that business. And I just had overwhelming stress and anxiety. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try that Reiki. I didn't even know how to spell it. And again, this was at the very, very beginning of my healing or spiritual journey. And I was like, well, I'll just go in for a Reiki session and then my anxiety will be gone. Like, boom, it's that easy. And so I went in, and when I was laying on the table, my anxiety was gone. So that was good. And for a couple hours after, I felt good. And it's hard to explain, but I felt good. I felt good enough to say there's something to this. I'm going to come back. So I came back for 5 more sessions, and they were talking about how you can get trained in Reiki, but it was like $500 or something like that. And I was like, whoa, $500, like that's too much. Now keep in mind, I had a graduate degree, my master's degree. That was a lot more than that I was not using. So, but at that time, that $500 was just, wasn't going to do it. And I wasn't ready. I wouldn't have been ready. And so then the next time that they offered the Reiki training, I just felt compelled to enroll, and I did. And during that same time, I found the book Autobiography of a Yogi, which is talks a lot about energy and like moving the energy through your body. And so I just like felt myself drawn to these more spiritual practices. And this was after, a year or two of listening to like the motivational, like the Tony Robbins type and things like that. And so I felt like I was just progressing more and more and more in my self-help journey. And these kind of spiritual pieces brought something to it that was different and very interesting to me. And I just went with it. Like, I didn't know where it was going, but I knew that I had to keep going. So the way Reiki training is, there's no standardization, unfortunately. So it's a little different in different programs. But the way it went for me, you get trained in fundamentals of Reiki, which is Reiki 1 and 2. Then I went through advanced, then I went through a whole self-healing Reiki process, and then I got my master's. And at the same time that I'm learning these technical skills, the training in it, I'm going through this spiritual journey on my own. So by the time I came out, I didn't have a choice other than to start practicing Reiki. I loved it more than I'd ever loved anything in my entire life. I was always drawn to healing. Like you mentioned, I took the conventional route as a therapist, but it wasn't a fit. And I was searching for that fit. And it's like when I found it, and by the time I'd gotten my master's in it, I was personally ready, and I had to pursue it.
And what do you see in your clients? Like, what are some success stories?
So the downloads that I have that free one that you can get. I also have one that's very much targeted to physical ailments. So I have a client who got shoulder surgery and just had a very tough recovery, and she relied on it every single day. And she would go to the physical therapist, and they would tell her that she was like weeks ahead of where she should have been. And for a period, and she didn't want to take the pain med. So for a period of time, it provided her with pain relief, and it was the only pain relief that she would get throughout the day. I also have a client who was diagnosed with cancer and has just seen incredible improvements in his health since. And then a lot of like mental, emotional, helping with anxiety, and
it goes with the territory. If you've got a physical ailment,
it does.
Par for the course.
It really does. And I've had clients that I have done in person Reiki, because I do distance and in person, and they didn't really know much about Reiki, but they had inoperable things that couldn't be operated on, or things that couldn't be treated with conventional medicine. They would come trying something alternative, and they would get off the table and they'd hug me, and they didn't know me. They didn't know what Reiki was, but just that 1 hour or 40-minute experience was so powerful to them that it's hard to really explain it, honestly, but it's just so beautiful, the connections that you have with certain people. And it's like, they know that they're being healed. They don't really understand it or know the specifics of what's going on, but they can feel that healing is taking place. And, that's so much too plays into your thoughts, plays into like the mindset that you have about your own healing journey. So whenever you feel very confident that you're going to a healer and you feel good, then you take that confidence with you when you go to the doctor's office and you're getting those tests done. And
right.
It just carries over into everything.
Yeah. And it calms you down a little bit. And I equate it to, like, when you're a kid and you banged your knee, you cut your knee, falling off your bike, and then your mom would, bandage it up and give it a little kiss. And it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? It's the same energy that's coming through your mom goes through you as
Yeah,
a Reiki
exactly.
practitioner. Yeah. So, Reiki is a Japanese technique for stress reduction and relaxation. That's really important these days because we're all a little stressed. And that also promotes healing. Stress, by the way, is, the biggest contributor to illness, as they're saying, right? A lot of, you talk to anybody, and stress is, really the underlying cause for a lot of illness or disease. But it's administered by laying on of hands. Even Jesus did it, for those who are wondering about this. He was a healer, and is based on the idea that the unseen life force energy flows through us, and it's what causes us to be alive. Our spirit, right? It's one's life force energy. If it's low, then we're more likely to get sick and or feel stressed. And if it's high, we're more capable of being happy and healthy. So the word Reiki is made of two Japanese words. One is Rei, which means God's wisdom or the higher power, and Chi or Ki is the life force energy. So Reiki is actually spiritually guided life force energy. How does it help us to release stress, tension, and even pain in our bodies before it develops into a disease?
Yeah. So a lot of the disease is kind of like a stuck energy. So when you think of acupuncture and they stick the needles in the different meridian points, what they're doing is releasing energy that is in your body. And if anybody has ever gotten acupuncture or Reiki or any energy healing, often you'll twitch, like you'll kind of feel it. And so that's acupuncture. It's releasing stuck energy that's causing an ailment or a dis-ease in your body. And Reiki, like you mentioned, is similar, but instead of releasing stuck energy that you have, it's channeling fresh, new energy into you. So if you study quantum mechanics, then there is a unified field theory. Basically, there is an energy that, when broken down to the smallest point that you could possibly study it, you understand it's very simple, and we're actually all energetically connected. And so all I am doing as a Reiki master is using techniques where I channel this energy that is just for all of us to use, and I channel it through the body, and it's just very relaxing. It's very positive. And on a more advanced level, it can help kind of flush out a lot of that stuck energy that is created by that cyclical thinking. If you think every single thought carries an energy, then how many years have we been building these energy vortexes of just negativity? And even if we stop it, even if we try to stop that negative thinking, where does it go? Like, it's still within us, and it can manifest in diseases and mental health diseases and physical diseases. So Reiki kind of helps to flush out some of that as well.
And even like Michael, who's on this, lose 100 pounds program. I know I'm down 20 with the program I'm on the keto program. It just made sense. Like, now's the time to move the energy and to let go. So, we're all, does Reiki help you let go and release that too, that emotional stuff that's with us, so that we can let go and let our true selves emerge? Because that's what I feel is kind of, I'm working on, is like, the new is about to emerge, probably not until the spring, when I'm, down another 20, 25 pounds, but yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And so the thing we have to remember is we are not, who we are is energy. We're not our minds. We're not our bodies. And I remember when I was on my healing journey and I was listening to this yogic meditation, and one of the mantras you said is, I'm not my mind, I'm not my body. I'm like, well, what am I then? Like, what do you mean I'm not my mind or my body? That's exactly what I am. But there's an energy that is separate from all of that. But what we do is we go through life and we have different experiences happen to us, and we energetically hold on to it. Or what we'll do is we'll energetically kind of build a wall to protect ourselves. And really what we're doing is walling ourselves off from our true nature, if that makes sense. So like the more walls that we build against other people. So that was a big thing for me in my journey is because I've always been very sensitive and very empathic, I can feel how other people are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And
Here too.
yeah, and I hated it because I didn't understand it. So
Yeah.
I'd create these walls and I can feel it. Like when somebody would go in to hug me, it was like I could physically feel that I didn't want to be hugged. Like it was like a legit wall. And I don't know where that, like I didn't know where that was coming from, but that was an energetic wall that I just built up. And along with that and like all the defense mechanisms of we're so concerned with how other people view us and presenting ourselves as a certain way to other people that we get so out of touch with who we truly are beneath all of that. So yeah, through the Reiki process or any energy work like acupuncture, qigong, yoga practices like Kundalini yoga, Kriya yoga, anything like that kind of helps get rid of a lot of the junk, and we're able to get in touch and actually feel who we are beneath all of that, beneath all the defenses and, socialization and programming that we have identified with for so long. And it's so hard to like actually verbally explain it because it's such a feeling. It's such a feeling of peace and just being content and just unconditional love. And that's who we are underneath of it all.
Yeah. And yet our traumas or our stuff that happened when we were kids and our inner beliefs and everything have us not be that. And as even we've been talking a little bit about Louise Hay, and she said, well, when you were born loving and perfect. So what's changed? The conditioning, maybe the programming we got as kids, or the beliefs we had, like you were alluding to at the beginning about money, that your beliefs around money were a little bit skewed, just due to your upbringing and your parents' money habits. So we start to believe that, and we start to numb the pain of it. And so that's where illness happens. That's where bad habits like drinking, smoking, whatever, start to come into play. And what you're saying is then a practice of gratitude, affirmations, meditations, counseling, energy work will help us to release that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's not one like key practice that will just do it. Like it's a combination of everything. It's just a combination of what works for you. And some people Reiki might really work for, other people might just not get it. And that's not their path. Like it's just about finding that path so that you can recognize like these events that happened to you didn't define you. These, how others define you does not define you. How you define yourself based on past conditioning doesn't define you. Like, so you can ideally get back to that state, like how you said, Louise Hay, said, like, babies are so perfect. And when a baby is hungry, the baby cries. When a baby's happy, the baby laughs. But like the older we get, the more conditioning we receive, the more programming we receive, and the further away we get from who we authentically were when we were that innocent child. So yeah, it's just a journey of really just rediscovering who you've always been, who's perfect. Everybody's perfect.
Perfect, whole, complete.
Yeah.
We're part of all that is. And yeah, we have to honor ourselves and love ourselves. And if we do that, then everything falls into play. We've got a few minutes left. I do want to do the Reiki thing, but I got a couple of questions to ask you. Any questions from Michael and Asha, guys? Okay, Asha, chime in. You're good? Michael, you're good? All right, so we'll finish up in our chat here. I think the two questions I really want to get at, as author in Quantum Mind, you mentioned quantum healing and healing in the quantum. For those, Michael and Asha, if you want to research sort of quantum healing and science and quantum physics, I really like a couple people. One is Oh my God. I see him. He's a chiropractor. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, it's good.
And read up on his work, because that's helped me through the challenging thing I've been through the past few months. But also, author and quantum mind expert Gregory Braden is another one. And he suggests that in order to manifest positive change in our life, we have to let go of the negative thoughts and beliefs, feelings and emotions, and really feel the higher vibe thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and emotions in order to manifest healing and change our results. What's your take on that? Because I think that's tough to do sometimes when you're really going through it.
Yeah, it is tough to do. Absolutely. It should be the goal, but it should also be looked at very realistically. And if you are on a journey and you are trying to keep your vibration high and something continues to lower it, then just trying to keep your vibration high and not listening to what's trying to lower it will leave you in this like endless battle. So when we're on this journey, these things that come up for us, they need to be understood and addressed and released. So I think that I think it's almost impossible for us to always have a high vibration.
Yeah.
But the more we're able to release and, move past or transcend or understand these different parts of us, then the easier it does become to keep your vibration high. So yeah, I understand it in theory, and absolutely it is true. And, if you look at all the different spiritual practices, or even like psychology, like things like enlightenment, self-realization, self-actualization, it's all this journey to get to that point where you're free of attachments. You are just like kind of one with all. And you can stay in that vibrational place, but 99.9% of us aren't there, but we can work our way up. Yeah. And I guess that should be the goal, rather than trying to be there 100% of the time. Like, can you be there a little bit more than you were before?
I agree. It's like the Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, where we have to have our basic needs met, or, exactly. The self-actualization won't take place. Mm-hmm. My last question to you is, we have two states of being. I had more questions prepared, everybody. But we have two states of being in life. We do things either consciously with awareness or unconsciously. I know personally, when my unconscious takes over, all heck can break loose.
Oh yeah.
So I'm, you want to be more conscious and aware of what you're doing in the moment, not not in the big picture of things, but today. Mm-hmm. So the unconscious is where we go on autopilot. What's the distinction between conscious and unconscious and the subconscious? And how can we manage these states in order to produce more positive results in our lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can get into like the definitions of like Freud or things like that, but how I like to look at it is kind of like the unconscious, the conscious, and then the superconscious. So the unconscious comes from our programming. Our conscious is what we are aware of right now. And then the superconscious is kind of like that high vibrational state that you were talking about. So many of us, a lot of our world is 100% acting from the unconscious or that subconscious mind. We're 100% acting from conditioning, and we don't recognize it because we think that our feelings or our opinions or what we desire is us. Once you kind of wake up and become conscious of that, then you bring these unconscious thoughts into your conscious awareness. Now, this doesn't eliminate them, but it makes you aware of them. And like I had mentioned earlier, it kind of gives you your power back to listen to them or to not listen to them. And then when you reach to the point where you're listening to this like super conscious, you could call it your intuition, you can call it your higher power. That is going to guide you in a way that is truer to who you really are and not who you've been programmed to be. So I feel like there's kind of like stages. You can work on the subconscious or that unconscious mind, with like affirmations and meditations, binaural beats, like a whole bunch of different mechanisms to work with it, so that you can start to think in a way that supports who you know that you truly are. But then the more that you meditate, the more that you can be mindful, the more you can find that contentment, that peace, the more in tune you then become with that super conscious, with your higher self. And it can lead you in a direction that is very true to your life purpose or your dharma. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Beautifully answered too. We're running at 8:06, so we might go.
Oh, okay.
So final time for shameless self-promotion. Where do we reach you? And by the way, for those listening on tonight and those tuning in on the YouTube version of it, Reiki gift packs make a nice Christmas gift and a good start to December, right?
They do. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly. Nothing says I love you quite like Reiki.
Right.
and a box of, Ferrero Rocher, but what the heck. All right.
Yeah,
where do we reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at reikiwithrachael.com, and I have a lot of online services, and like you mentioned, that free Reiki download that you just sign up for through email, and it's 30 minutes long. You can find me on YouTube, Reiki Rachael, and then Instagram, Reiki _with_ Rachael. So those are the three main places. And if you go to my website, if you wanted to reach out to me, there's a contact form. Oh, and also I do want to make you aware that if you go to my website, there is a free healing request. So if you have a healing that you need, if you have a loved one who is going through something who needs healing, then you can fill that out. And I just send daily energy. You can call it a prayer or a blessing if that would make more sense, but it's just daily energy for their highest and best good to help in the healing in whatever way that you would need or they would need.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. So are you okay to do like 5 minutes and then we'll wrap up of the floating energy out there?
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for this. And just to let everybody know, next week we have Malachi Brown. We're going to have a conversation about just the shape of the world we're in and how having a bit of a Christian perspective might help. And then we'll end it with this series with Frankie Picasso, who survived head-on, T-bone motorcycle accident and how she healed. So that will wrap up our transformational series. But you're okay to do 5 minutes or so of Reiki with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So all this is going to be is just me flowing this energy to you. I kind of describe it like me sending you a text message. Like, we don't have to be in the same room for you to receive a text message. You don't have to be in the same room to receive this. So if you can, close your eyes and lie back.
I'm going to close my eyes.
Yeah, then that you might be able to feel it more. But if you're not able to, then you'll get it. You'll get the positive vibes anyway. So I'm just going to set my timer. And I always start with just some sacred symbols and then just do the energy. Oops, sorry.
And this is available on your YouTube channel too. So
it is, yeah. If you look at my YouTube, I do this a lot. I have different healings and stuff on there too. So, all right, enjoy. Okay, we're all done.
Wow. I hope that relaxes everybody. Take that energy into the holidays, in the new year. Tap into what Rachael, her site, and what she's doing. You'll never meet a more generous, loving person, and I mean that with all my heart.
Thank you.
You're really amazing. I'm glad we met. I'm glad I found you online. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Again, website, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, website is reiki-with-rachael.com. And, if you are interested to see if the Reiki healing would be something you're interested in, try the free download and just see what it's like for you. And if you want to do it in person, there should be Reiki practitioners in most places. It's good to try it in person too. I know I'm supposed to be self-promoting, but
Yeah.
any way that you want to get it feels right for you. I want to encourage.
Yeah. Well, Asha, we had a Reiki practitioner in your class, if you remember.
Yeah.
So
Remember, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah. So I taught Michael and Asha an entrepreneur. They were in an entrepreneur training program I was involved with. One of our participants practiced Reiki.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that was good. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and thank you for those watching on YouTube. I hope you got some nice information and energy at the end. And Rachael, thanks again. Okay, and yeah.
Well, thank you.
We'll
and thank you, Asha and Michael, too.
Thank you, Rachael.
You're welcome.
And again, next week, Malachi Brown, about having faith in God, how that can help us heal. And we're not going to get all religious on you, but we'll have a good conversation. And then Frankie Picasso the week after. Have a beautiful week, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, that too.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Asha. Thank you, Rachael.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.